Why, hello and welcome back. Random Randy here with another video for everybody out there. So, we're talking about mechanisms, the last video, things that may have happened in the past to create the world that we live in today. And so, we're going to pick up on more mechanisms today, one in specific being plasma, electricity, and all things electric. Okay. So, again, fair use for everything on here, educational purposes, and reviews and comments only. So, that being said, what is plasma? Here's what we're told, guys. This is what we're told. Plasma, well, at least like in school, we're told plasma is the fourth state of matter. Ionized gas is also called plasma. Lightning is an example. What they kind of neglect to tell us, though, is that the sun is a big ball of plasma. Like we're told it's a giant nuclear reaction. That may be true also. I'm not taking away from any established science, and I think that that's kind of a big problem with the is it flat? Is it round? Is it this? Is it that? Really doesn't matter what shape it is if it's all energy, right? It would follow certain pre-planned kind of designs, you know. Events would happen in certain patterns, plasma patterns. Um, when you look at cymatics can just be another manipulation of plasma or of energy, right? So everything, the sand, the sky, the flowers, us, it's all energy. All right. What we see as tangible, you know, items are really just vibrating super fast or super slow, or depending on whatever our reception is able to take in, right? Because we're kind of like little antennas. Uh, our brains, look at the format of our brains, very Lichtenberg, right? Very electric looking structures within us, our veins going all the way down, arteries to veins to fingertips to toes, right? It's all based on a plasma patterning. Okay. So I think that if you aren't up to that or aren't up to speed with that, go take a look into Plasma Universe. Okay. Now, this is, of course, a theory, same as relativity is a theory. Everything's a theory because we ultimately really don't know. Now, Plasma Universe specifically applies to the universe. So it's used on a bigger scale most of the time than we encounter on a daily basis. So, um, but they are able to replicate a lot of this plasma effects in laboratories, including creating small sun-like items within a lab that exhibit all the behavior that we see in the sun itself. So, tons of different plasma events they are creating in labs, showing more and more that we live in a plasma universe. So, um, if you feel the need to, go ahead and pause a couple times here and here. That way, you've got a little bit of the lowdown on the term plasma universe, where it came from, so on and so forth. I'm not going to bore you folks with reading off all of that fun stuff. Now, what brings this to mind, guys, and you'll see this in the video that I did with Ari Asulin regarding Saturnian cosmology. Okay. Um, and again, fair use to Mr. Casaro down here for pulling these pictures up, just demonstrating. And go check out his stuff, richardcasaro.com, if you want to find these ancient icons for plasma events. So I've got a video on there. One theory is the Saturnian cosmology theory, which specifically is encapsulated within a plasma universe model. Um, so it's kind of at odds a little bit with the flat earth universe model, whatever, right? They're all just models. Personally, I think it's a little bit of everything. But then when you get to like the whole double slit experiment stuff, like, is it even there if there's nobody observing it, right? Like, any of our best guess, we can't know if we're not there. So that being said, the mind is a powerful thing. Anyway, I mean, look at this, guys. All around the world: Bolivia, Egypt, North America, Sumeria, right? Sumer. I mean, you name it, we have these same symbols. Now, these symbols are very important because they have to do with plasma. It's not just a doodle, a cave doodle, a random piece of art. Now, embedded in all of these pictographs from our past, because they didn't often use um, alphabet. They weren't so restricted in time and by structure that they really had to use an alphabet. If they wanted to show somebody something, they would show them in the most beautiful fashion possible and create art much like this that tells an entire story because everything was handed down through oral tradition. So you would have these representations as a conversation piece, right? As a cornerstone to a conversation that you would then have to teach your students. Okay. So plasma is a big deal. It's a big thing. It's something that we neglect to include in our typical understanding of the world and the universe, even of ourselves, right? Even on like the spiritual woo-woo side of things, energy is a very big deal. The way that you carry yourself going into a day, the way that you lift yourself up energetically throughout the day when you're having a down moment, that's all energy. Emotion is energy. All right. Motion is energy. Everything here revolves around energy. Now, some would say, well, that's not electricity, Randy. Right. Right. It's not. But by moving, folks, we are creating energy. At a minimum, we're creating static electricity by moving with our clothes on, whatever, through the air, right? If it's dry enough, um, we are creating energy. Every action we take, every time we decide not to act, we are manipulating energy in this world. So that's why it's so important to the ancients. They were very spiritual people, very tied into what was going around them plasmatically, if that's a thing. So symbols in the ancient sky, these are pictographs from different caves around the world, and you see a lot of this. Now, something kind of interesting to note here that I'll throw out there is within this figure, you have the Tubal-Cain kind of image, right? Or even the little F with so there's symbolism embedded in the logos of today that go all the way back to ancient times. Now, this is a tool that was, held by the gods, kind of like you see here, right? See this? This is a symbol for plasma or electricity. So, plasma or electricity is the tool of the gods. Not saying a giant ship comes down, right? And a giant plasma beam erupts and carves holes. But you know what, dude? We don't know. In the in between times, whatever could be happening here, we really don't know. But a lot of people think plasma apocalypse and then think of something coming down, a planet, a species, a group of aliens coming down, shooting this laser beam into the earth and just like melting everything, um, leading to art like this, right? Now, it most likely looked much more natural, just looked like a happening. Keep in mind, we can only see and perceive a very small part of what is going on around us energetically and spiritually and otherwise. We can only see a little bit, very narrow window of observation that we as humanity have. Okay. So, that being said, let's move on here after we looked at the tools of the gods being plasma, right? Now, keep in mind that the sun is symbolically, portrayed as gold. Okay. So the sun itself is a type of plasma actuator, right? It is a plasma ball in our sky. However far away it is, doesn't really matter. We are still receiving energy from that plasma, and we are exchanging back a different type of energy back into the circuit. All right. That's what the plasma universe model is about. Right. Everything in its place, working collectively to create a circuit. And, folks, we are a big part of the energetic capacity of this earth, right? There's a reason cities are strategically placed. There's a reason, go look at Michelle Gibson's work about racetracks, golf courses, places of leisure being right on key nodes here in the circuit board Earth, right? And this is just a rough example that somebody has, drawn up. Now, I do believe that the Earth is a type of a circuit board. Now, what I also think is possible is that sometime in the past, perhaps it was during this deluge, right? This flood, where this circuitry, much like this circuit board, had gotten wet. And what do we see happening here? We see things being turned to dust, instantly oxidizing, right? So, could this be what happened to our world in the past? I really think so. There's a lot of interesting art, especially when you look into like the books of the I want to say the Latter Day Saints, maybe. It's one of those, one of a Christian based type of religion group. I can't recall exactly which one it is, but they have a lot of tales of this reckoning time. I mean, there's even stories in Revelations, right? Of this reckoning. So is this what it would look like on the ground? You see kind of a plasma event going on over here, or fires, things like that. Obviously, they're shaking, knocking down towers. Okay. So could this event on circuit board Earth have led to some of the art we see coming out of the Middle Ages? Personally, I think so. It just keeps showing up again and again, right? um, Codes and little keys to show us that energy is a big deal, right? Are happening. And what do? We make art now with electricity and plasma. Okay. Now, as you may or may not know, art imitates life and then back into a cycle of life imitating art. Now, is this world we live on the canvas of the gods? Something to think about, right? Something to think about. Did they purposely fry the thing out to create different elements? That's also a possibility. Okay. I mean, this all goes together, guys. This goes together with the mining stuff that I was talking about in Quarry Earth video. Um, it's all one big living thing. Now, a lot of people like to think, oh, it's just living as in the organic sense that we understand being humans. There's a lot more life going on here, guys. It's a lot of things. Now, this is electric arcing in sand or in earth, and you can see it carving out the sand on this plate, creating these shapes that we see. Some of these same shapes that I was showing you in that Quarry Earth video that appear to have been mined. Now, is this mining taking place in a wholesale fashion where, the Anunnaki come down, create the people, then zap the earth, and then let the people pick up all the crap? Possibly. Or is it something a little bit more beyond us, right? Speaking more to a different type of intelligent design, something a little bit more involved than just one alien species creating us and so on and so forth. Is there a big network of these species that we really don't have a means to interact with, aside from in a very strange way, uh, you know, kind of mental things like the CE5 thing, where you've got to go out and do a ritual, which is sounding very kind of religious, it's sounding very kind of spiritual, and the experience becomes a very spiritual experience for people. So that's a thing that's crazy. So we look at the world and we see river valleys and things like that. And they all kind of have this Lichtenberg figure to them. Now, this is the United States. So we're looking at rivers, tributaries, little streams, and everything. So, it really makes me wonder, especially after looking at old maps and seeing a different layout of like everything, right? Um, some of the older stuff looks like they're deliberately like hand carven in a very interesting fashion. So again, this speaks to a different culture that was here before. Did that culture actually take part in creating this new landscape? Was time a big factor in this? That's another thing, guys. There's energy in the water. There's energy in the air. There's energy everywhere. So could it have just taken an extended period of time, the way that we're told in school, millions of years, billions of years, 17,000 years since the last ice age, whatever the case is. Now, it's just as good of a possibility. All right. I want to be very clear on this. It's just as good of a possibility that this stuff happened instantaneously. And it's the same possibility that it happened over time. Okay. Now, we as humanity are stuck in viewing things on a 12-hour a day, 60-minute an hour timeline. Okay. Now, when you look into like Vedic text and things like that, you have a very different perception of what's going on. It's a very long time cycle, divine years and things like 24,000 years in a divine day or whatever the situation is. Go look into it yourself. I, highly recommend looking into the Vedic texts, things on Vimanas, flying ships, cities. I mean, dude, you guys name it, it's in there. And these are our spiritual documents. These are our books that have come down through the ages, much like the Bible. So I think it's important to kind of look at all of these things. Try not to be super close-minded. It's fine to have your beliefs and your systems in place, but don't let these things limit you, guys. Don't let the globe earth limit you, the flat earth limit you. What if it's a combination of the two? What if it's everything that everybody believes all in one? Are you going to feel bad for believing anything is possible? Or are you going to feel bad when you find out later down the line after this life, whatever the case is, that holy crap, everything is possible and I limited myself to believing that it was nothing, that I was worthless, that I was nothing, that the world was an accident? Do you really want to limit yourself to that? I really, just got to ask you folks out there, because I don't. I don't want to limit myself to that. Now, what brings me to some of these conclusions is when I look at the landscape. Okay. This is an example of reclamation, guys. And I've talked about this in a few videos. Reclamation. This is a dump. Literally, this is a dump. Plastic diapers, bags, tires, all that stuff. So, what do they do with this stuff, guys? You want to know what the uh, energy exchange happens to turn this into this? Electrolysis. Okay. What do? You get it all good and wet, and you send high voltage through it, and it changes, breaks down all of this crap that we are told can never break down. It breaks it down, not completely. It becomes smaller particles, but there are some organics in here that will allow for this beautiful hillside to come out of this monumental dump. Okay, so this stuff's going on all around us, guys. If you live in small town America, you've got a dump outside of your town. Guess what? That dump is going to be the next generation's playground and park and homestead, right? So it's just something to think about, guys. Another thing on the tail end of this, before I wrap it up, I'm trying to keep them a little shorter for everybody, that way you can have time to watch them, maybe drop a comment, that sort of thing. And this will be part two in a series with maybe several more different facets, looking at the mechanisms that got us to where we are today. And again, I'm not negating any possibility out of this, guys. I'm open to hearing what you all have to say about it, what your experience and your perception tells you. Um, and I think it's very important that we consider everybody's perspective. They're all equally valid. I mean, you know, the world hasn't quite shifted over, which maybe it will, I don't know, to an understanding that relativity is not everything. If they'll ever throw us that bone, if they'll ever really throw us the electric universe bone and allow us to understand the things that are going on, wholesale understanding, like by everybody. Okay. But as of right now, this plasma universe thing, this is fringe, guys. Like, this is really, really fringe. Okay. And it has to do with magnetohydrodynamics, and so that sounds super confusing, but it's really not. It's of course it's not working great anyway. um so It's not as complicated as we are kind of told it is. It's pretty simple. You have a cathode, you have an anode, you have a circuit, you have electric energy. We all have this cathode anode electric circuit within us, our chakras, etc. So this stuff is not far fetched at all. I recommend looking into it because plasma can do beautiful things. It can also, do some very, very destructive things, energy, right? But, all in all, guys, um, appreciate you letting me come on here and rant. um, and research the old world, research the plasma event. There's some really good stuff out there. There's some really great YouTube channels. I can't recall them all right now. You guys probably know the go-to's like John Levi, Conspiracy RS, etc. Hopefully I'm coming along as becoming another outlet for unbiased information for everybody. I really do try very hard to keep my biases, my personal opinions to myself. But really, guys, I believe and feel in my heart of hearts that everything is possible. All of these theories that folks are having are very possible and may very well have happened at some point in the past or in the future, because turns out time's, really just an illusion. But we'll get into time next time for you guys. And, keep in mind that the end is only a new beginning. The end of this dump was the beginning of this beautiful field here. And, the end of our ignorance can be the beginning of a very beautiful understanding. So, that being said, I want to thank you guys all for tuning back in. Once again, I'm Random Randy. Give us a share, a like, comment. I love the comments, guys. Keep them coming. It's amazing to see conversations happen, especially when it's real people, not just all the bots. So hop in there, show some love. If you have a moment and want to hear some conversations that have got me to this point of understanding, go check out the podcast, guys. Red Thread Podcast. It's been mostly copies of these videos going up over there, but there's probably 40 or something episodes with different podcasters throughout, different topics like Bigfoot. I mean, you name it, it's on there. There'll be some more work going into that soon. And that's about all I've got for you. So thank you guys very much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.